Okay, there we go. So we can get started. So now today the job is actually showing you something very simple. I mean, for me to show you something that I tried to do in a couple hours yesterday, last night, and I'll tell you what is my plan and goal to learn by myself, and what is the next technology I'm going to be, kind of learning from here. So this is again, our tool is the Gapminder, and I'll go back to the Gapminder website later. And the process I'm having in mind is that we're going to be doing something as we discussed last week. At the end, we're going to have everybody has a story, right? Story is something we're going to be delivered to whoever wants to listen. We're going to publish this on YouTube or any other potential, maybe on the website of the Data Analytics Center in the future. So the traditional data science method or any research project is more or less look like something on the left. So we have a problem, and we look at it, say, well, I have a problem. Say, I want to know why my company is losing money, right? So I have a problem, and in order to answer that question, then you go find some sort of theories or some kind of idea or brainstorming maybe, and come up with some explanation. We can call them probably a model. This model in research can be a theoretical model and can be uh, derived into a set of hypotheses. And based on those hypotheses, we go collect data, prepare data, and do analysis and find and try to analyze the data and present finding, and they become our solution. So that's a typical traditional research method. And I believe that in many accounting students that we have in the group here, you will be doing this in your capstone project. I believe that among all the three master program we have on campus, in College of Business now, only accounting students are required to take the capstone and write a research paper. But the other two program, MIS program, we have a capstone, but it become more like a capstone project instead of a thesis. So the capstone project can be very applied. So we're not doing that process anymore. So, but the because the training in the master program is not really solid enough to conduct the research in a very complete process. So my suggestion is, regardless of which program you are in or will be in the future, even if you are an undergraduate student, we're going to be doing this in the process on the right hand side, and this will be a shorter program, shorter process, and it fits into something in the MIS we call the agile development process better, right? So the idea is this: it's pretty much more like a data exploration project. So the process will start with not by a problem, but by some sort of hunch. Yeah, I'm interested in something like maybe I'm interested in COVID-19 nowadays because it's a hot topic, or maybe not. It's already out of focus, or maybe I'm interested in the election, right? So there's a hunch or something, and you go out and find some data, or vice versa. You can go find, well, somewhere out there that somebody published a bunch of data out there, and I look at the data, and maybe from observing the data, I found something interesting. I want to know more, right? So if you go later, I'll show you one of the data set I'm using in my class this semester from the Tyson frozen food company. And you look at that data and look at what number is in the data, and try to think about, well, maybe there's something interesting phenomena or pattern we can play around. So that's the process we're going to be doing. So look at the data, what's out there, and try to see if that fits into our tools. And once we can make the data fit into a tool, the tools we are using, then we present some visualization, and hopefully from the visualization we identify some sort of pattern, and that pattern can be a story to tell, right? So a story to tell people. And one of the famous story that I learned from the one of the book that I read is called The Tipping Point. I believe many of you have read that book. Gladwell, what was his name? Malcolm Gladwell. He wrote that book, I think 20 years ago, about something about marketing, and he mentioned a story about a data pattern. The story is about the your birthday, right? So everybody has a birthday from January to December. So the pattern he identified is that, are there any advantage of a certain pattern that if you are born in a certain month, you are better off compared to the other kids born in the same year. Interesting enough, there is a data pattern in the professional sports player, NBAs and as well as the hockey, the Canadian hockey leagues. They identified that most of the star player, right? So people who become star, NBA, we have Michael Jordan, we have Kobe Bryant and LeBron James, and so on. So these people, so they put all these star player into a chart and find out that uh, interesting enough that in Canada, well, this is the Canadian data, then later they use in MLB. I don't think they use in NBA, but they found that most of the star player in Canadian hockey leagues are born in the months between September to November. So there is a high concentration of the star player were born in that 2-3 month period, and so the story, right? I will not say this is a theory because it's a story. The story told by the book was that they try to explain, says, okay, the reason that you see a lot of star player born in September, the October and November was because the cutoff date of the enrollment of new student for elementary school kids are usually in August, right? So what does that mean if you are born in earlier August? Which means that if you're born early August, which it means, I'm sorry, this is the other way around. So sorry, the star player was usually born in the summer, not in the winter. That's I remember that number incorrectly. So the story is that the cutoff date for elementary school kids was in August. So if you're born in August, what it means is you cannot get into the current year registration. You have to wait an entire year until next year to register. So if you're born in August, then when you go into your elementary school, you will be the biggest and what do you call this? I'm sorry. Yeah, I was correct earlier. I don't know. I was kind of confused. So yeah, so if you're born in September, you will be cut off. You have to wait an entire year to join the first grade in elementary school next year. So the resulting is that you will become the biggest and tallest and strongest kids in that particular group, right? So that makes sense. I don't know if I make myself clear. So the resulting is because you're stronger and you go play sports in elementary school, you are better than other kids. So you become better as a star player in the elementary school kid. So when people are picking kids to be trained to go to the next level, you have a better chance. If you're born in September, October, better chance to be picked because you're stronger, smarter, and more mature. And so every year after like our regular education process, after you graduate from high school, you have like a 10, 12 years of advantage over other kids, right? So that creates this phenomenon that you see that star player. So from the data pattern, they create this story, and I'll call them story. And it's not even a hypothesis. And of course, the story I was just mentioned is for all the, especially professor here, with our training, we see that we will not believe that story because it's not verified. It's just something like a pattern we observe. But from the data analytics perspective, this kind of pattern is good enough to be used in setting up some sort of a marketing strategy or business strategy to do something about it, right? Even though that particular story or the real cause of why the star players are born in September or October are not really caused by the strongest or biggest kids in the school, but it could be there's something that we can dig around and know more, right? So that is the thing we're going to be doing. So what we're going to be doing is not verify a theory or building a knowledge, but we are trying to discover something. So the role is more or less like a journalist than a researcher, if I can describe that way. So that is our goal. And so to start using the Gapminder, right? So this is getting to the meat of the thing I want to do today. We have to understand something basic, right? So this is the lecture part, um, and uh, and this is not even new. This has been around since 1990s. People start talking about OLAP when I was in college, and one of the very new or very important development in the data analytic world is data warehouse. And back then we were talking about this terminology here called OLAP. The full name is Online Analytical Processing. Right? Online Analytical Processing, and after different company develop different technology, the name changed. Some people call this a cube. Say Microsoft Business Intelligence Engine will call this OLAP cube, and but I believe all of you are familiar with the technology we use in spreadsheet called pivot table or pivot chart, right? So one of those two. And the main difference between pivot table and OLAP is that OLAP has another name. We call them multi-dimensional analysis, right? And pivot, because it's present in a tabular format. So what you are seeing here, every table has two dimensions, right? So it's a plane. So x and y axis represent the idea of a two-dimension analysis. OLAP is actually nothing more than extend those two dimensions to 3, 4, 5, or even more connection, right? My Zoom session says I have unstable connection, so let me close my video and go directly to the share screen. All right, so that is one. So this word dimension become important, and I want to introduce or actually familiar yourself with a couple of terminology, and it is very important, very fundamental, very basic. But I found time and time again, even with some believe it or not, the researcher colleague that we have, they are not kind of very aware of what they are doing in handling the data. And so let me try to kind of in here we don't really need to know the true definition or the real meat of it, but you have to understand the difference. So these two words are dimensions and measurement, right? In the Gapminder tool, they call this indicators, right? So measurement of indicator. Indicator is a more recent terminology, and some of you probably learn as well in other I don't know, management or strategic class called the KPI, key performance indicator, and that is where the term is actually coming from. And in the data visualization world, indicator or KPI become popular after about 2010 or so. So it become the keywords. But usually in research we call them measurement, right? So there is a major difference between dimension and measurement. Dimensions has in data warehouse world has three different or four actually three different category. Now one category is called anything that you can create a type is called a or any category is called a dimension. So the example of say country, state, these are categorical variable, and anything you can put them into categorical variable, it become a dimension. Or anything like you can call this true and false, yes or no, Trump versus Biden, that sort of thing. That's categorical. So those way of classifying data or variable, we call them categorical table. But in data warehouse, we call them dimensions, right? The second type of dimension and the third type is location. It's kind of like similar to the concept of category, but it has some special meaning. And so the second category, we put location into a special type of category. Now, the reason that we put location into a special category is because location usually have this hierarchical structure in terms of the category. So you have country, you have state, you have city. Every city you have street. So these are a hierarchical structure, and so location is one special one of those. And the other type has a hierarchical structure is time, and time is very special dimension because other than it's hierarchical, it also has a continuous meaning. So the time dimension make this dimensions and the measurement sort of like a blur, the boundary between the dimension and measurement blur. Oh, I forgot to mention that the other side of the dimension is the measurement. The most easy way to understand measurement is everything you can put them into a number, integer number, real numbers, or not real number are called measurement, right? So numbers are measurement, and the categories are dimension. But time dimension, we call them dimension. It is a number. It can be in the computer world. Actually, time is recorded in a binary number, but time can be measured by second, by minutes, by a day, by a week, by month, by year. It's hierarchical, can be categorical, and can also be continuous. So time is another dimension. And time dimension is probably the most important dimension to be play around in the world of artificial intelligence because it relates to anything that you want to predict because time is relating to the past and the future. So any prediction model you need to handle the time dimension very well. So based on this understanding that you have this dimension and measurement, now we can go into the Gapminder tool in much more detail because I need to explain now what is the data structure that Gapminder is going to be using. And once you have that idea, it will make your job of using that tool much easier. There is an article I kind of searched and put them in here. It's from 2014. Explains something about the terminology of cube and data warehouse and how do we use OLAP in the data warehouse world. And I'll just leave it there and without actually what do you call this? Look at the article. You can read this by yourself. Okay. So this is a data set that I prepared yesterday, right? So last night, and when I was searching for example of how do I prepare my own data set to be used with Gapminder tool. So this is a copy from I think this is a copy from my Google spreadsheet somewhere. Yeah. What I did there is, and I'll show you where I found the data later, is that I went to the Yahoo Finance website and try to identify, well, are there any financial data? Because we have several more accounting students here in the group. So let me just using some of the financial analysis as an example. That's actually my recent interest is because of the stock market and so on. So this is actually not the technical analysis, but I'm just using the data they have, right? Because it's hard to find the data required for the Gapminder tool. So the data set is organized in this format. The first column has to be some sort of a dimension. Has to be some kind of categorical variable, right? You can have probably first and second, or first, second, and third into hierarchical. So imagine that if the first column is country, then the second column can be region, right? So you have country, United States, and the region will be North America, right? So that's the idea. So it becomes hierarchical if you put two columns in there. So I have one column here. It's called this is a DIS. It's a stock ticker for Disney, right? So I'm actually buying Disney and Netflix stock, so that's why I'm kind of putting this in here. So I download the closing price for Disney, and every year well, actually this is a fake data, by the way. Okay, I didn't actually collect the end of year data. I put some random data in there. But anyway, so the assumption is every year, right? And this is actually try to fit into the Gapminder tool better, but we can try as become your job later to see how can you make this data play better. Right? You can put any kind of time data there. You can, well, in this case, I just use simply year. A number represent year, from 1990s to 2024 or something, right? And I download data from Yahoo Financial, put that into the price column. And so what you can see here is now the second column is something what we call time dimension. So on this data set, I have two dimension and one, two, three, four, five measurement or five indicator. Right? So that's how we read the data set. And two dimension, including one time dimension, and or you can say one dimension, one time dimension, and five indicator is the minimal requirement to use the motion chart or the bubble chart in the Gapminder. Right? So if you do not have five indicator, you do not have time time dimension, you do not have the categorical or one dimension, you cannot even use that bubble chart. Right? And the Gapminder tool allow you to use three chart. They even though they have six different chart, they allow you to use three chart using your personal data. Right. So this is another chart called the ranking chart that I created yesterday. Right. And the ranking chart, if you study the dimensions and the indicator, how many is the minimal requirement? It's the motion chart on the left lower corner shows the time dimension, and because we want to animate the whole data set. The bar, the length of the bar is kind of like a bar chart, but kind of flip upside from vertical to horizontal. So the horizontal bar chart is the ranking, and the length is the in this case will be the energy use, and that is the indicator. So we have one indicator represent the length of each category. We have this bar color that I put in on the right to represent the second indicator. The second indicator we have here is I use population. So I have two indicator and one time dimension and one categorical. This one categorical is countries. So with countries and things, and we can see how this animate and where I found the data later to show you how this works. So if you have only two indicator, and that is very because a lot of time measurement are very difficult to be found or quantified, or we need to if you need to find fine measurement for a particular phenomena, it requires a lot of effort to get the data. So if you have only two indicator but two dimension, then you can build this chart. You have five indicator, then you can build this sample that bubble chart that created by Gapminder. Right. So look at the bubble chart construction now. Then it will be much easier to understand what kind of data is required to build this kind of a chart. So we have time dimension. We have each bubble is a type of location. That's another second dimension, and the color is the third dimension. So we have three-dimensional variable, and we have in this case three indicator presented in the bubble chart. So with the colors and animation, the size of the bubble represent three. Well, we actually, what I'm trying to say here is the bubble chart itself, this motion chart, actually presents you with three dimension plus three indicator analysis. So it is a concept we call the cube analysis. It is OLAP already, right? So this is go beyond a pivot table. It's an OLAP analysis because you are analyzing at least three dimensions and three indicators together. So it's actually very powerful in terms of presenting this data here. So so this is a summary of what I was just saying, that okay, so now the bubble chart is actually give you more dimension and more indicator in one chart. But there are of course some drawback, and the advantage is you present your or you do analysis in one single visualization. But the drawback is that you are uh, the chart can become very overwhelming. It's very rich, but a lot of time that we human beings have difficulty of handling the complexity that in that particular level. And uh, the part of my research training is on the modeling. So how do we draw flow chart? How do we draw ER diagrams or that sort of training? And in the research world, we study something what we call the cognitive load of our brain. So when you draw a diagram of flow chart, some people when you read a flow chart, right, I believe accounting student or any MI student will read a flow chart at a certain point in time in your curriculum. When you read a chart, some chart seems to be very easy to understand, and some chart seems to be too simple. Some chart seems to be too complicated, right? And different person when they try to draw the chart, the chart can be overcomplicated or oversimplified. This is especially true when I'm a professor grading the student assignment when you try to draw a flow chart for a business process. So there is a right balance of how much information you want to present into a chart, right? Without saying too much, let me give you some number. The right number to for human brain short-term memory to handle is about the 7 or plus or minus 2. So it's somewhere between 5 to 9 different object or dimension in this case simultaneously handle in our brain. So for a smart person, a more genius, IQ 130 or higher, that you can probably handle 9 dimension at the same time. And for advanced dimension, in this case, a kind of blending between dimension and measurement. For a regular person like you and me, probably, we can probably handle somewhere between 7, 6, 7, or 8. 6 is more likely. So the bubble chart is we have 3 dimensions, 3 indicator interact together. That's probably the maximum mental load we can handle, right? So any diagram more complicated than bubble chart will be not useful. You want to reduce that. And if you learn from your professors somewhere that the most commonly used chart in business words there are 2 types. One is called a bar chart, the other is called a line chart. Bar chart handle 4, 2 dimension, 2 category at a time, and the line chart can handle probably 5, right? Bubble chart handles 6. So line chart and bar chart are probably the most useful chart because that fit into our human brain better, right? So, but our goal in this workshop here is to use the bubble chart. We want to build a story, identify pattern based on bubble chart. So that's my goal, right? So data used in the Gapminder and the story you're going to be developing can come from 2 places. One is you do this manually by yourself, like me, what I did to prepare the data into a certain form in the format you see in the previous slide, and read into Gapminder and try to see what can you present in there. The second one is go out, find other people has already built the data set specifically for the Gapminder tool or something similar, right? So another similar tool will be the Google Public Data Explorer, and I will show you in a few minutes. So one or the other, and I'll show you the first method and direct you to the second source, so you can start doing your data searching, hunch developing sort of exercise for next week. And there's some link there, and I'll come back to that. So before I finish or actually present you in how this is working the tool, there is a well, this you can call this assignment. Basically, what you need to do is you need to find a data source and try to see if you can grab a smaller set of the data source and put them into the tool, like what I'm doing today here in the next 10, 20 minutes or so. Right. So that is your little assignment here. So next week when we meet again, you'll be doing this. All right, so let me show you what I did yesterday, last night, when I tried to do something. So this is the Gapminder website. And by the way, the tool can be downloaded directly from here. Right? So you can download this. I think they have Macintosh versions and Windows version. So download this tool. And this tool I download from my Windows desktop is showing up here called the Gapminder offline tools here. And that is the tools. And we have Yahoo Finance, right? So this is what I did. Yeah, this is a search term I used yesterday. So what I did is, okay, I need to find a data set that has at least time dimension. So you have to think about what kind of data I can get, either by year, by month, or by quarter, by week, or by day. There are a lot of time variation. So the target is, okay, I'm going to be comparing some sort of performance or their relative indicator between two company and to see if I can see something around there. So I was thinking about since reason I try to look at Disney, right, is because the Disney, of course, I'm a Star Wars generation, so I watch Star Wars movie, and Disney they launched their Disney Plus earlier this year, and I had very high hope on this company about their future success. Even though that after 6 months or so, that I found this it's a little bit disappointing in terms of the content they have in the Disney Plus library. But they do have some continuous effort in there, like for example launching Mulan, the new movie in Disney Plus, or if you watch Star Wars, that's called the Mandalorian. Yeah, that TV series in Disney, the second season is coming up. But anyway, so they are a potential competitor for with Netflix. So I want to study more about Disney. So I went to Disney, right? So find Disney, and their current stock price is 124. And again, they have historical data, right? So I go into historical data. And the historical data they have here, including the time, which is something I look for. And the company itself is a categorical, right? So if you think about Disney versus Netflix, you create a category called company dimension already. So and they have one open, high, low, close, adjusted, close, and volume. Among these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 indicator, actually only 2 indicator in my intuition is more useful. Probably I'll take a look at the closing price and the volume. Right, volume, closing price. I think anybody with fundamental financial training will know there's something that kind of hidden between the volume and the price. Right, so high volume, high price jump means that it's bullish. High volume price drop, very bearish, right? Somewhere in between, high volume but low volume but price go up. What kind of indication is there? So there will be a story to tell in here. The more ideal data here will be, I'll include some other indicator might lead to my prediction of volume, price. Maybe I'll take a look at their earning, say for example. So they may have earning, but the earning is not present in this format, right? So the earning may be present in their quarterly report, but they do have quarterly report somewhere. They have statistic here. So if you go into statistic, they have time information and quarterly report about their earning, P/E ratio. So this is good, but unfortunately we cannot use this directly into our analysis tool. So we have to prepare our data. So this is what I did to prepare our data. I create a spreadsheet. Basically, I export the data from the website, right? From the website. So you go to historical data. You can specify, and most of the data portal tool that we have now, they have that capability. You can do this even on UIS. We have enrollment data. That is actually another project I like to play when I have time. So you can select how long of the data, 1 day, 5 day, 5 years, and so on. So you can, and then you can apply and you can download the data. I think there's a link says you can download the data. So this is what I did. I download the data, but only with the open, high, low, and close information here. Right? So I have this data right here in volume. So this is the data I download from their website. But of course, that the time, if you compare this data set with the requirement, I have time dimension. I don't have the category dimension, so I have to create category dimension. So I did something very primitive. I create another spreadsheet. You can use another tab. And what I did is I simply copy the Disney data and put the name of the company or the stock ticker in the first column. So I have one categorical value and one time value, and I have this open price and closing price, but I don't have other information, so I add more column here to create additional information. I ends up with this particular sample document. I call this Gapminder sample. So what I did is I rearranged. This is all done manually. I didn't use any programming tool. I just copy and paste, and I get the Disney data. I get the Netflix data, and each one of them I hypothetically create the data from 1990 to 2024. Those are incorrect number, but I'm kind of I just try to see if the tool can be used. And I copy the market capitalization. Actually, this is also incorrect because the market capitalization for each company, they change over time. Even though it's not changing every day, but it changes every couple of years. So you have to change the capitalization as well. Revenue change as well, and cash flow change as well. So I have some of the basic data from the accounting report, and I put them into my Disney fundamental. I call them Disney fundamental study, sort of like a data set here, right? So once I build this, this data set is ready to go, right? Remember, you need to have one category, one time. And now to simplify this, I put them only in years. I didn't put all the days and month information here. And once I have this data, right, I can launch my tool. Allow launch this tool. And so this is a default tool that are running on Windows environment. And you go into this file, and of course the default mode is that you use the Gapminder data. They already collect the data from World Bank, from the United Nations. So they keep updating the data, every year. So they have the newest data. They have, I think, up to at least 2019, and some of the data say have 2020, right? So for your own data, you have to create your own chart by using your own data, right? So when you select the data set, you'll find there are three options: CSV file, Excel file, DDF folder, right? So if you're try to work on a project using the data you want to manually prepare and then correct, I'll recommend using Excel, right? Excel data file, and that's much easier because most of us know how to use one way or the other Excel function. So you can actually massage and copy and paste the data better in there, and the data preparation will save a little bit of time. And so let me just open up the data file that I prepared, and I'll just first of all using the bubble chart, and there are two options in step number 2 here. One is called time goes down. If you click on the sample, it will show you what kind of data set we are preparing or require. And this is a data set example, very similar to the one I just created. It's called time go down. So the year column is going vertically. So we have a column called year. But if you look at the second way of arrange the data, sometimes a lot of this Excel company report will be present. Actually, the UIS enrollment data is presented in the second example here. As you can see, the years are presented into single column, go from left to right. Right. So in this case, the indicator is this way. Then year go from left to right, from column C to column K, and the indicator numbers are going in this horizontal way. So it depends on how your data is arranged. You will pick different option. So my data set is created from times go down. By the way, which one is better, right? The better choice is the time goes down option. The reason that the time goes down option is because majority in most of the database engine, the data is arranged in the times go down. So time is represented by one single column, not multiple column. So the first option is preferred, because if you identify a database, usually time is going down, not going left to right, right? So, but spreadsheet, a lot of this smaller company, not even smaller company, some large company, they will use time goes from left to right to do that kind of job. So we're going to be using the first one. Long explanation, but hopefully that's informative. So we select this data set called a gap sample. I just created, and it's in there. And here is another indication if you later prepare your data set. If you are presenting the data not in the year, but in the date, like the financial data, to be accurate representation of the company, you can take a look at the format. How are you going to be formatting the data? So if you want to use only month, make sure that it's year-month, right? And this is a European way of representing. So you have the year information in the front. And yeah, because originally it was a project from Sweden. So this is if you want to have date, then you have to have year, month, and date information in the format. So you can learn different format. So in Excel or in any other tool in database, before you can export the data to be using here, you have to organize the time in this specific format, or called a structure, right? And it's very important. If the structure is not important, the data will not be read, and you cannot find the result. So once you have the data in there, the next job we need to do is, I believe, we need to select or actually customize the chart by price and data. And this is correct. I don't know why this is not showing up. It shows up correctly. Yes, let me try this one more time. All right, so maybe I clicked something incorrectly. Something wrong with it. Let me close this and reopen this again. My data, Excel file, bubble chart, time goes down, the gap sample, year, okay. There we go. So we have Netflix, Disney, and you can change the color and say revenue as a color. So the orange has higher revenue, green has a lower revenue. The size is represented by the market capitalization. They're about the same, so it's kind of not very interesting. Maybe I'll change that to cash flow, right? So Netflix has negative cash flow actually. Disney has positive cash flow. So that's a thing. It stopped at the current time, 2020. So and the vertical is volume versus price. So there is a animation of these two patterns. this example, I built this very quickly, and the data is not correct, but its purpose is only to test to see if the data set fit into the tool, so we can use our customized data set in the representation in here, right? So now that you know that it works, and your assignment, of course, for next week is you got to do something like this, and I'll share with you the sample data, but you want to build something. It can be very short, 20 column or 20 rows, 30 row, 40 row, represent two company in 5 years, but try to see if you can build a data set that are readable by this particular tool, right? So that is the one thing that you want to do in the process of looking for data, and later I'll show you where to find interesting data, right? So that is one. The second source of the data is going to the data source already organized in the format of the the Gapminder tool, and the data can be found. This called Open Number website. They use GitHub actually. This Open Number website has the data set that is already ready, right? So if you are lazy, lazy, do not want to manually build your data set first, but you want to play with the tool, you can go in there, try to find interesting data set that you can use in here, right? So let me get out of this thing and show you what's in there. So you go to this Open Number website, and there's something called a data set here. You can go here, and there are a lot of data set that presented here. They didn't give you any explanation, but some of them can be recognized by the name of the data set. Some of them won't. So you can take a look at what they are. Say, for example, MIT Economic Complexity Ranking. Something about ranking might be interesting. And what I did is I downloaded the first one. The first one is BP Energy, sort of a, oh no, actually I've downloaded the second one. Some sort of a historical emission, because I'm a very left-wing, progressive person, so I worry about the environmental very much. So I download that data set, and the data set download like this. So the download data set look like a folder, something like this, right? So this is the download data set. It's in the zip file. So what you need to do is just unzip the file and take this folder, and I put this folder here. Right, so I have this folder in my download folder here. So once you have this folder, this is the entire data set. You can actually take a look at what kind of the data is in there. There are a lot of CSV data, and they are organized in the reasonable format. So this is the historical emission data, and I try to build a story that says, okay, let's take a look at economic development and the green, what do you call the CO2 emission across different countries, to see who is the biggest polluter, and that's sort of see if I can find anything around that direction. So that's serve my progressive agenda, sort of a story. So this is the data is already there. So now I can try the tool, go into the data set, and again, new chart using your own data, using the DDF folder. And this time now is much easier. What I would do is I will showcase to use the tool in different chart. You can try the second chart called line chart, but I will show you how to use the ranking chart, because I saw a lot of this ranking animation on YouTube. Compare, say, the technology or the what they call the GDP comparison between countries. See how fast China can catch up United States, for example, or how much a weapon military spending between each country. You search on YouTube, there are a lot of similar animation. You can now build this up easily by yourself. So I want to be using this emission data folder simply because the data is already arranged in a way very well for you, so you can go and select the data, and now you can customize. So the indicator I want to customize into not energy use, maybe total CO2 emission, right? So it is ranking, right? This is in 2020, number one is China, yes. So actually not 2020, 2013, they're already the number one polluter in the world in terms of CO2 emission. And I can change the animation into a better, say, if I have a country, well, dimension here, I may be change this to country dimension, but let me just use population as the color scheme, right? So that's a population in color, and of course you can select country, and the time dimension is automatic there. So with one indicator, and one dimension with the time second dimension time, I can now look at the animation. Starting from 1990, the number one polluter is actually United States. Was United States, and we can check to see which year China catch up. That's the year. So we can probably go back, roll back. Which year China catch up United States in terms of CO2 emission? 2004. Much, what do you call this? Much earlier than I thought. Well, yeah, much earlier than I thought. But 2004 was actually. Maybe we can check the economic data to see what happened between 2000 and 2004. U.S. was in the e-commerce bubble then, so must be a story why China. So that it looked like China started to become a world manufacturing hub, probably say all the way back to 1991. So they start building their manufacturing fossil fuel burning since then. So they surpassed European Union in 90 and surpassed United States in 2004-5. Right. So that is the story that we can build with the data. Right. So now it's your job, as I mentioned earlier, to look for problem and data set that you might be interested. Again, this open number is one place to look at. The second place I would recommend to look at the data set is if you go into Google, search for Open Data Explorer. You will find that Google or Public Data Explorer. Google also have similar engine like the Gapminder. But to use this your own data set, the technical knowledge to use the Google Public Data Visualizer is a little bit higher. You need to know the data structure to prepare the data. They do not take the Excel file, so you have to do something. And you can search. They have 137 big data set, and you can look at the data set from here. OEDC. So there are a lot of economic data from this is European data set. And yesterday I found something very interesting. Let me share with you. Unemployment in Europe. No, I did something about I found something. Unemployment in the U.S. Yeah, I think I look at this. So if you go in there, you can actually start. The data set is already there. Now you can start exploring by clicking the different chart on and this is the bubble chart, and this is the map we're looking at. So look at bubble chart. We can select unemployment as y-axis and the labor force as x-axis. You can very quickly look at the data, and we can change this to state. So we have all the state here, and then now you can select, say, California, Illinois, and what else? Texas, maybe, Ohio, and take a look at their relationship between labor force and the employment rate or something, right? And you can do the animation. So this tool is there, and there's high and low. And I don't know what story to tell, but this story need a little bit of time to kind of. And this is actually what I anticipate you will do, because any teaching case or any the research we do will be no fun without a story. So this is the second data source that I will recommend you to search. If you are a person who has already a very good database training, and I do have a data source that I can share with you. Right. The data source, I think I closed my tab, is it's from University of Arkansas. I don't know if I showed this data set to you last time, but there is a data set I'm playing around. So I was opening up this earlier. What's something wrong with it? Okay, let me refresh the page. All right, so if you're interested in this data set, let me know. I'll give you the access to the data set. And the company I was interested is the Tyson frozen food. Right? And we'll wait that to show up. Something wrong with the interface today, but probably because I was opening up this earlier. But anyway, there is a Tyson food data set here talking about, and this is already a data warehouse data set, so it's very easy to be converted into the format we like. All right. So to refresh or to summarize what I want to do here for you, or ask you to do here, is the following. Right, so you have to go find the dataset from one of the known source, and I'll email you the slide so you have the link I have from the slide. So try to compile a dataset, and hopefully that will be the menu dataset you pick, and try to create a ranking chart. 2, try to create a motion chart. And next week, every one of you, we have probably 5 or 6 of you in this section. At noon, on Tuesday at noon, to kind of everybody can spend like 5-10 minutes, tell us what kind of process you went through, how many hours you went through, what kind of data you find that you find interesting, and probably share your desktop and show us what kind of ranking chart we have, right? And see if we can build an additional story on top of it. And so after next week, the week after, my goal is we will kind of polish your story and make this a little story that we can build either a video or a website so we can share with other people. Boost yourself and put this on your digital resume. So that's my goal. All right, so now I'll stop here, and I'll stop the recording actually for the session, and let you participate now. If you have questions you want to ask, let me know, or anything you want to talk.